Hey, welcome back to the Music for Humans channel. My name is Louis, and today we will unbox the violin we purchased together. In our previous video, we talked about the different steps of buying our first violin, and we ended up buying this cheap violin on Amazon. If you haven't watched our video about how to buy your first violin yet, please do. The link is in the description. Alright, so today we will unbox the Debijin Adult Kids violin. I will review the violin and everything that's in the box, and then I will show you how to properly set up your violin to get it ready to play. Before we actually unbox this beautiful violin, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel to get the latest tips on how to play the violin. Alright, so let's take a look at what we've got here. Alright, I have to say, at first glance, the violin looked pretty good, but the more I look at it, the more I see a lot of issues with it. The varnish is actually a high gloss lacquer that makes the violin looks like plastic. Plus, there are many other issues like the strong smell of glue coming from the case, the improperly drilled peg holes, and we'll also need to install the bridge ourselves. Yikes! Now it's time to set up our violin. First, we'll have to install the bridge, which is an essential and delicate task. Before putting the bridge in place, I strongly recommend marking it with a pencil where the strings sit. The graphite will act as a lubricant when tuning the strings. It will help the strings glide smoothly on the bridge, preventing them from breaking and the bridge from bending. Before placing the bridge on the string, notice that one side of the bridge is higher than the other. The higher side will go under the G string and the lower side will go under the E string. Alright, so let's do this. First, glide the bridge horizontally under the strings and then turn it slowly until it's standing straight under the string. Once the bridge is under the strings, make sure that all the strings are sitting in the little holes where they're supposed to be. Then make sure that the bridge is right in the middle of the F holes, aligned with the little lines here. Then lastly, look at your violin from the side, making sure your bridge is sitting in a straight line perpendicular to your violin. Now it's time to start tightening the string. We'll start by sitting our violin on our lap, facing us. To tighten the strings, we will just turn the pegs away from us, this way. Make sure to add the tension on your string slowly, little by little, because it's very easy to break a string. Let's do all of them one by one. Alright, so now there's a fair amount of tension in all my strings, and while I was tuning my strings, the bridge started moving forward. So I'm just gonna make sure to put it back in place. As you add more tension to the bridge, you will start feeling that it gets harder to move it. Don't worry, it's still safe to move the bridge even with full-on tension. Just do it gently and delicately. Alright, so while we were setting up our violin, I started noticing a lot more issues with this poor instrument. This violin's fingerboard and nut is actually made out of soft wood painted black to make it look like ebony. Any respectable violin should have an ebony fingerboard and nut. If you don't know what ebony wood is, it's a durable hardwood that can handle the constant pressure of the strings and from our fingers playing on the violin. This is really bad because it will cause quick deterioration of our fingerboard and nut. It will lead to poor sound and make it very hard to play in tune. On top of this, the strings are digging into the nut, making it really hard to tune the violin. One more thing I noticed on that violin is that the nut has been filed poorly and the distance between each string is uneven. This is gonna make it very tricky when we start playing not to start touching neighboring strings with the bow because the strings are so close to each other. Alright, so let's stop our violin setup for a minute and let's take a look at the bow and accessories we have in the case. The bow looks decent and the frog is properly set up. The distance between the actual frog and the bow grip is very important because it's going to help quite a bit when you try to set up a reliable bow grip. Okay, let's test the bow screw to make sure it actually tighten and loosen the bow hair. So if I turn the screw clockwise, it will add tension to the bow hair. And if I turn it counterclockwise, it will remove the tension from the hair. Great! So the screw works well. Everything looks in good working order. This is great. Let's leave some tension in the bow hair so we can use it later. Alright, so let's take a look at the rosin and add some to our bow. The rosin looks actually really cheap and it's a universal one. So it's good for violin, viola, and cello. This is a red flag because rosin shouldn't be universal. This is why good rosin is usually made for one specific instrument to get the best possible performance. Before we actually put rosin on our bow, let's try to play a note without any rosin and see what happens. Nothing happens, no sound is coming out. Alright, so to add rosin, first open that little box. Make sure you still have tension in your bow hair. If you don't, adjust it with the screw. And then we'll glide the bow on the rosin from the frog to the tip. In long stroke, evenly all over the bow. Don't put too much at the tip, too much at the frog, just do the same thing all over. Since our bow is new, we have to put quite a bit, so don't be scared, just keep going. More rosin, go, go, go! Alright, so this should be pretty good. Let's try it, let's see if a sound come out. Woohoo! Magic! Our violin is actually ringing. Alright, so now let's move on to the accessories we have in the box. We have the shoulder rest here, and it's actually shaped in a nice way that looks a little bit like the Kun shoulder rest, which are really high quality shoulder rests. The extra strings are a nice touch, but the quality is terrible. To give you an example, a decent violin string set goes for about the same price as we paid for that entire thing. The Fingerguide sticker can be great, and we'll talk more about it later in the video. The practice mute is nice, but unnecessary for a beginner's kit as you want to develop your sound and not mute it or hide it when you practice. We also have the tuner here that looks pretty cool. You can attach it to the head of your violin with a clamp. We'll use it later to tune our violin. So now that we've been through everything we have in the box, let's finish to set up our violin. Alright, so I'll tune the violin with the tuner that came with the kit. The tuner is easy to use and it helps me tune the violin quickly. However, as expected, the violin and the strings are taking some time to settle. I will definitely need to retune the violin multiple times during our practice session. I noticed another terrible thing about our violin while I was tuning it. The quality of the tailpiece and fine tuner is so bad that it makes the fine tuners basically useless. Just to give you a quick example of what I'm talking about, first, turning the fine tuners should be effortless. These ones are actually hurting my fingers when I try to turn them. Second, as I turn the fine tuners, the pitch of the string should change, but it isn't. This is another red flag. Good quality fine tuners and tailpiece are actually essential to keep your violin in tune and make tuning your violin actually possible. If you want to learn more about how to tune your violin, please watch our video on how to tune your violin. The link is in the description. Alright, so let's finally talk about how to install that Fingerguide sticker. First thing, you gotta peel off the sticker from the backing. Once you've done that, slide it under the strings near the bridge. And then turn the sticker in the same direction as the fingerboard. Moving toward the nut. Now starting in the center, smooth out the top of the sticker, making sure there are no bubbles. And that's it! Let's finally hear the tone of our violin. The sound is okay considering the price point. The tone is kind of mellow but nasal sounding and it doesn't project at all. It also lacks a lot of the richness and depth of a higher end violin. Overall, the DB adult kids violin is probably the worst piece of garbage I have ever tried in my life. If you are a beginner on a very tight budget, I recommend renting a violin instead of buying this. If you're going to buy, it's better to invest a little bit more money to get something that you will actually enjoy playing. It seems like our violin shopping journey isn't over just yet. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel as we will continue shopping for violins and try to find the best deals out there. If you have any questions or need help shopping for a violin, please comment or reach out to us directly at musicforhumans.com.